people are crazy.
Well, here's an alternative thought. Make your own dinner, MAGA. Make your own sandwiches. Wipe your own tears. Troll amongst yourselves with Elon and leave us alone. You got your heart's desire, the president you dreamed of and worship instead of Jesus. And this time, you didn't even have to storm the Capitol, smash the windows, or try to kill police officers or issue death threats to poll workers. See? You did it just by voting this time. Congrats. You got your way. And he even got away with breaking the law. Yay. But if you expect the 73 million who voted for the prosecutor, not the felon, and particularly the 92% of black women who voted for Kamala to give you a cookie for your vote, a trophy, a hug, a high five, you might be asking too much. If we want to eat with you, we will. But if we just want some peace over the holidays and we don't want to put up with your trolling while we eat our tofurkey, get over it. Stop acting like we owe you. And for God's sakes, stop whining. It's embarrassing. Our Thanksgiving.
To the Democrats, I say, be careful what you wish for.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I think this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And that it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that,
Well, I'll be damned.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that
wipe your own tears.
That what I was doing had value.
And for God's sakes, stop whining. It's embarrassing.
Don't beat yourself up.
My show had value.
Not anymore.
All right, folks, buckle up because we've got some breaking news that's going to stir the pot and has everyone buzzing. Joy Reid, yeah, you heard it right, her show on MSNBC has been axed. Now imagine that. This isn't just another show ending. This is like the end of an era for somebody who has been the controversies darling for years. Joy Reid, who's been a staple on MSNBC, always fueling drama with her far-left views, has officially been shown the door. You know, with all her drama, race-obsessed narratives, and the whole shebang, it's not surprising many saw this coming from a mile away. Yet here we are, watching her farewell, tears and all. So, what does this mean? I mean, seriously, when even MSNBC says, enough is enough, you've got to wonder, right? This is like literally a huge shakeup in the media world. Now here's the kicker. She's trying to make this moment a badge of honor. Her emotional farewell was filled with justifications, but come on, let's be honest. Can anyone really buy it? Her narrative has been divisive, to say the least, kind of putting more flames than facts into critical issues. All right, folks, if you're as invested in this saga as I am, you don't want to miss more juicy updates. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon. It just makes me happy and keeps me going. I'm gunning for 1,000 subscribers by the end of February. For real, help me hit that milestone so you never miss a moment of the action. Let's do this together. Well, since we've started diving into this Joy Reid situation, let's really break down her career and see how we got to this point. Let's rewind a bit, all right? Joy Reid first gained mainstream media attention back in the day when she started working for MSNBC as a managing editor and later as a political correspondent. You see, her ability to discuss issues that tap directly into the heart of identity politics was both like her strength and, let's be honest, her Achilles' heel. Joy Reid, she was really known for her rather forthright discussions on race, socioeconomic disparities, and political injustices. At one point, her perspective seemed kind of fresh in the political news landscape, but as her tenure progressed, she became notorious for, I guess you could say, being unapologetically controversial. You know, her bold approach and her ability to stir the pot kept her in the spotlight. However, it's precisely this quality that attracted substantial backlash over time. You know, a significant moment during her career, this really put her in a rough spot, came when some of her past blog posts resurfaced. Those old writings were criticized and heavily scrutinized because of, well, the derogatory language and seemingly homophobic remarks. That was like a turning point. Joy Reid initially denied authorship, claiming she was hacked, but evidence never truly backed that up. Man, did she face a wave of criticism. To be fair, she later apologized on air, acknowledging those posts hurt people, but for many, it felt like too little too late. Her continued stint on MSNBC didn't shy away from bold political discourse. Even though she had this strong fan base, supporters who appreciated her guts to tackle sensitive topics, she wasn't without fierce critics. Like right around the time the 2016 election approached, Reid was one of those media figures who never minced words about Donald Trump. And believe me, her fiery commentary often crossed lines, branding Trump as a clear and present danger to democracy. Her coverage of the presidential campaign just kept escalating in intensity, with Reid painting the picture of a nation teetering on the edge of internal collapse. Now, don't get me wrong, being critical is one thing, but her words sometimes went beyond that, a style that alienated numerous viewers who felt bombarded by the constant drumbeat of, there's only one narrative. Anyway, the Megyn Kelly showdown that caught everyone's attention, it marked another individual turning point. You remember that? Megyn Kelly, a fellow news personality, publicly challenged Reid's assertions about, the so-called white tears of conservatives and the moralistic backlash against her race-focused commentary. Megyn, she, majorly critiqued Reid's reliance on racial victimization narratives, framing them as damaging not just to political discourse, but to social cohesion as a whole. These public feuds, trust me, they only intensified the polarization happening on air. It isn't just the backlash from personalities, though. Let's talk ratings, a crucial barometer in the media industry. Reid's show's ratings struggled to keep a consistent trajectory, frequently falling behind other MSNBC primetime programs. It's one thing to have influence within niche circles, but the numbers, folks, they tell a bigger story. Over time, they really started painting a picture of dwindling viewership, which, well, you guys can see how it spells disaster in this competitive space. And essentially, therein lies another piece of the puzzle, right? Media networks like MSNBC, whether they lean one way or another, they still need to maintain a level of broad appeal. This dynamic meant Reid's persistent slant and often one-dimensional take on complex topics needed to be reassessed continually by the network higher-ups. Now, diving deeper into controversies, another heated moment of Reid's career emerged with her coverage of cultural topics, cases involving the removal of controversial statues, or what many of her detractors labeled as historical revisionism. Reid wasn't afraid to call it like she saw it, positioning herself as a kind of defender of rewriting history to be more inclusive and honest. But the critics argued relentlessly that this approach was more about erasing than remembering. The truth? It's all about perspective. Still, her punchy, and some would say divisive, narratives began to lose traction among wider audiences. Another memorable incident arrived during Reid's vehement discussions concerning identity politics. Whether it was navigating the issues surrounding immigration, defending movements like Black Lives Matter, or asserting passionate positions about gender rights, Reid didn't waver. Many appreciated her bold stand, but equally, many questioned whether she was, too ideological for her own good, pushing boundaries at the expense of engaging honestly with opposing views. And as her show continued, Reid found herself increasingly embattled, juggling applause from some quarters and condemnation from others. As the cycles bore on, the vitality of her commentary wasn't enough to ward off declining interest. MSNBC faced the dilemma of upholding ratings while striving to remain relevant in a rapidly changing media landscape. Amid all of this, Megyn Kelly, a polar opposite in political slant, continued to capitalize on Reid's challenges, often using her platform to draw stark contrasts, between Reid's allegedly biased narratives and broader media impartiality. For Kelly and those aligned with her, Reid represented what was wrong with current media, a proponent of subjective news handling that many Americans accused of undermining credibility. In a symmetrical irony, Reid's fate seems symbolically connected to the plight of other media personalities who have, in one way or another, been caught up in the whirlwind of controversies. Figures like Brian Stelter and Don Lemon come to mind, both having faced and subsequently struggling with their own versions of heated audience disapproval due to extreme opinions. So here we are today, a culmination of a career filled with high highs marred by searing lows.
The big news tonight will be Joy Reid's final show on MSNBC. Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy. She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC's under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality. The truth is, this is very sad news for us, as she's provided so much material over the years. I feel the way I felt when Brian Stelter got fired, but he came back, and you never know. I'm sure Joy Reid will wind up doing something where we will continue to get to respond to her absolutely insane POV.
Joy Reid's recent emotional goodbye might be touching to some, but to others, it's the final chapter in the saga of a voice that was both lauded and loathed, often in equal measure.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And I say this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And that it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that the moment of guilt that I felt, that I went hard on so many issues, whether it was the Black Lives Matter issues of a young baby or a mom or a dad that was killed, or when we opened up people's eyes to the fact that Asian Americans were being targeted and not just Black folks, or went hard for immigrants who've done nothing but come to this country like my parents did.
Her exit marks yet another shakeup in mainstream media, vividly highlighting the intricacies and, yes, the personal costs within television circles. Many will argue whether Reid's tenure ultimately helped or harmed American discourse. Did she really elevate conditions by bringing narratives to light, or did her sharp tongue create more barriers than bridges? In a sense, that's left for each observer to determine as they reflect on the challenges in presenting unbiased truths in today's hyperpartisan media terrain. So what do you guys think? Was Joy Reid a trailblazer who got lost along the way, or did she represent an unfiltered truth that wasn't ready to be received? Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below because, I really want to hear what you all have to say on this one.